go slowly. It's only 1 minute. Yeah. So we're going to give it a little bit of time to introduce Derek. Today's topic is going to be about presenting you Derek, that is part of our Amancay network, as everyone has heard about already. For the ones that haven't, like, Amancay network is a network of instructors around the world that have trained with us or have worked with us that kind of share the same values and ways. And Derek is with me based on Honolulu, Hawaii. So kind of a little paradise to freedive. Yeah. And today, like, we'll give you a full CV of his performance and everything. But out of his experience, we thought it was a great way to present it, bringing up the topic of statics and urge to breathe. So we're very, very excited to have him today here. Hi, Derek. How are you?
Hola, Derek.
I'm excellent. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Very good, very good.
Excited that you're here with us.
Oh, thank you.
Finally working together somehow.
So tell us a little bit about introduce yourself. I'm going to give you full power of introducing yourself.
All right.
And I'm going to put you a little bit bigger so that everyone can see your face.
Thank you.
And tell us about yourself, like how we want to know, like, how you ended up on the freediving world, on the performance world, what took you to where you are today, basically.
Yeah, excellent. So I grew up in Seattle, Washington. Seattle's full of water everywhere, lakes, the Puget Sound. And so I grew up in the water, kind of being the boy, holding my breath, seeing how if I could grab the rocks, and not really knowing how deep I was diving. Eventually, I got stationed here in Hawaii with the Army, 2006, and that's when I discovered actual freediving, that freediving was a thing. And so I started freediving here with not much training, just kind of on my own. I started hitting 30 meters in a few months, and I realized that maybe it was time to take a class. So back then, this was 2000.
Maybe, like, kind of reaching that point.
So this was 2006 and 7-ish, and so freediving wasn't very big in the United States. We had one course on the Big Island every like 3 or 4 months. So you fly over there, and it's a big trip, and there's maybe 28 different students and 3 instructors, and so it was kind of just like this big ordeal that you go to for a 4-day weekend. So that was with PFI. I got my intermediate course with them, and been freediving ever since. Started getting away from spearfishing and moving into photography at the time. Really loved taking photos of fish, and it just kind of grew from there. It's been freediving ever since.
I invite you to see his work on his Instagram and his Facebook, because it's really, really nice. What you do is really good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
creative.
that. Now, onebreathphotos.com or onebreathphotos on Instagram. And a few years ago, I got selected for a contract with Cirque du Soleil as an apnea specialist, which was a blessing for me, since I also do gymnastics and some circus skills. And I've auditioned for Cirque for 15 years before finally getting a contract. But it was the first time Cirque had apnea, and so it was a learning experience between both of us of what apnea can be as far as an art form or a performance. So that was an awesome learning experience and traveling experience, and it was a blessing to be a part of. And now we're here in Hawaii with my wife, building a freediving school. So trying to take those blessings that I got and pass it on to everyone else.
It's awesome as I hear your journey. As you can see, all the different areas that freediving can take you through, because and photography, and then performance, and then like freediving, teaching freediving, like it's like if you've had passed through every single of the different areas, or a lot of the different areas that you can cover when you get into this sport, and it's fun to see how creative it can be, you know.
Definitely.
So
I think that's something that's missing with freediving, is that there's so much more than just diving on a line. That there's it can take you everywhere, whether it's the ocean or a lake or a pool. There's so much adventures to be have outside of the line.
Totally, I agree on that, definitely. And I think that's a little bit of what statics brings, like, not as a discipline itself, but it opens a door to show that it's not only about depth, and it's not only about, like, there are 100 different forms, you know. And if I'm not wrong, for your performance is where you had to kind of get more focused on everything that is statics or breath holding itself, more than like on a freediving performance, you know. But before we jump into that, tell us about Hawaii a little bit. What can they do if anyone here wants to go and visit you? What would, like, what a day with Honolulu Freedivers could be?
So the great thing with Hawaii is that you can dive year-round. We have 2 seasons. We have surf season on the North Shore, and then we have summer. And so that's about it. Winter season, the North Shore gets a little surfy, and that's when you have all the best surfers in the world coming. But the South Shore is still diveable year-round. We have, if you like diving with wrecks and diving with large marine mammals like dolphins, and we have sharks, we have turtles, we have eagle rays, manta rays. If you like big animals, this is the place to dive. And then we also have 4 or 5 wrecks here in Honolulu. One of the wrecks is 10 meters to the wreck, so it's just a playground for everybody.
Nice.
And a couple of the other wrecks are about 30 to 40 meters deep, so you can
a little bit more challenging, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit more challenging, but still incredible to see. Even for the level 1 students who are able to do 20 meters, you can dive and just almost touch the wreck, and then you see this huge wreck in the water. It's a great experience for everybody.
Nice. Yeah, we want to go and visit. Like, there are some really cool pictures, and Rose was there this year giving an instructor course, and a level 3 was, well, this year or last year. I'm already lost in time. But she loved it, and one of her days of diving was like ended up swimming with I don't know how many dolphins. It was insane, like the pictures. So yeah, I think that Honolulu is a place that anyone that free dives, and I'm dying for it, going to totally worth. There was someone asking right here, what certificates do you offer through your school?
Excellent. Yeah, we're certified through both SSI and through Molchanovs. So we offer level 1 and level 2 with SSI, and wave 1 and wave 2 with the Molchanovs. And then with SSI, there's quite a bit of other options you could have, like turtle ecology and marine mammal ecology. Yeah, so if we sign up for one of those courses, we can take you out and dive with turtles in Turtle Canyon or with the sharks on the North Shore. So we do offer some more wildlife excursions as well.
That's awesome. That's a really nice way of complementing it. Really cool. Cool. So if anyone has questions, guys, feel free to go asking them on the comments. And as the chat goes, we will go pulling them out and seeing what there is about. Yeah. So today we're going to jump a little bit, now we're going to jump a little bit more into the topic of today. And talk about the experience. Like, statics may be something that we don't put so much attention to. Like, if you went for a freediving course, you probably, if you're a level 1 or level 2, you just performed probably a minimum static session so that you could kind of get the grip of it, feel that urge to breathe, kind of see how it works, but not necessarily go really deepen into it, you know. So it's different if you did a course on a vacation location, or if maybe you were in mainland on a place without access to depth necessarily, you know, and there's a lot of courses that are given in cities through a period of time, and then when summer arrives, they will go and take you to depth. And maybe there you have experienced a little bit more of dynamics and statics because you have more time of the pool. But normally on places that you will come and travel to see the beauties of the place, we will be focusing on taking you through the beauties of the place most than anything, you know? So it's interesting to see how statics is a discipline where we're going to be, for the ones that do not know maybe and are listening here for the first time, it's a discipline where we hold our breath by just floating on the surface and playing like when we were young. I always like to say, you remember when you played to be dead in the pool, like, and see who lasted longer? It's basically that. Like, you play against others to see, or against yourself mostly, to see how long can you hold your breath with no movement, on a full relaxed mode on the surface of the water. Yeah. Different to any of the other disciplines, which will include movements. So in my personal approach, what I find that a lot of people that can be great at depth sometimes struggle a lot with statics, because it's a discipline that would put us face to face with that famous urge to breathe, and that the only thing that will take us out of that hold is your urge to breathe. There is no distractions. There is no kicking technique, equalization barriers. There is no pulling of a rope, anything that can distract yourself during your hold. You know, when we're diving, maybe it's like, oh, I'm more focusing on this, on that, and not necessarily just what this urge to breathe sensations are. While when we do a static, we have to be super focused. We try to get out of it, maybe just to not be on it. But those sensations are the ones that keep bringing us back to reality constantly. So here comes my question to Derek, is like, tell us a little bit about what kind of performance you had to do, and through that, how did you deal with your urge to breathe? How did you deal with that kind of sensations of going through that? Because as well, I can imagine that there is an adrenaline involved, there is a stage pressure involved on it, you know, other factors that each one can have their own, who they can relate to, but it's interesting to see.
Definitely. Before we start with that question, I would like to say that statics can be fun. I feel like a lot of people think that statics are just a suck fest, and there's no fun to it because it's just about holding that urge to breathe and misery. But I would like to flip the script and focus on that relaxation that it brings, the deconstruction of society. Like, we don't have the text messages, we don't have all that stimulus of advertisement. And so it gives our brain just a chance to relax. It's a meditative experience, much more than it is a painful experience. And I think if people look at it in a holistic approach, they're going to like statics a lot more and potentially train.
Totally. And it's something that we've been speaking on the last chats about, fears and breathing and everything of its benefits. So I think that you jumped like right on the spot of the same train of thoughts that we've been kind of transmitting on the last chats.
So that being said, like, statics can be a fun thing, and now turning it into a performance with Cirque du Soleil increased the fun. Yes, I had to perform in front of 7,000 people and to loud rock music and everything that we try to separate ourselves from when we do statics. We're supposed to have like a meditative experience, a quiet experience. So I really had to learn how to, one, warm up in a manner that is efficient, because I have to perform 9 shows a week, and I have exactly 30 minutes to warm up before I have to do my act. So no matter how my warm up went, the middle wall in the aquarium would raise, and I had to be ready. So I'm in the water already, breathing through a regulator, and as that wall comes up, I take my last breath, give it to the lifeguard, and then my act starts. And so no matter what, I had to be ready. And there's a couple times when like the air would run out, and so you have to be ready for some uncertainties. Sometimes the wall would stop because it would get stuck a little bit, and then it would continue to come up. Or sometimes there's delays between acts, so you never really know when it's time to take that last breath. Yeah. So there's so much uncertainties with the crowd and with the acts, and you really have to be confident of your abilities. And which is where my warm-ups came in. I'm a big fan of doing FRC warm-ups, so a passive exhale and doing a breath hold on there, mainly because it causes my contractions to start sooner, which allowed me to warm up in a more efficient manner. And then for the breath, and then it also gave me confidence that if something did happen, like my air ran out before my final breath, that I can still continue to do quite a long breath hold on an FRC and be comfortable with the act.
That's cool.
As far as mental preparation, I learned a few techniques for relaxations that I would definitely like to share. And I have for statics, I have them split up between like what I would teach for a beginner, what I would teach an intermediate level diver, and what I would teach an advanced diver, to build those relaxation and those statics up. So I know for you guys, you teach a lot of breathing techniques for beginners, and then you also teach like relaxation as far as body awareness, which is great for beginners. Definitely, like if you can't relax, you can't hold your breath. You definitely have to allow those muscles to relax. Last year, I had a student tell me something interesting. She did karate and dance and now freediving. And she says her instructors are always telling her to relax, but they never tell her how to relax.
How to relax.
And so that like blew my mind. I was, wow, you're absolutely right. I always say relax, relax, but we never like going into how to relax is a big thing. Turning off like one muscle at a time, doing those body scans where you're trying to let the muscles sink into the ground or into your wetsuit, and relaxing the mind. So the human body thinks of 60,000 thoughts during the day. 80% of those thoughts are negative. Am I doing this wrong? Am I doing that wrong? And so it's really important not to allow any of those negative thoughts to happen, but instead to tell yourself whenever you feel like you're going to think, to say a keyword. Oh, relax, be in the present. And that will stop those negative thoughts from happening and allow.
I think that's very interesting that you bring, because that's the main something I don't know if it wasn't out before, but what you say about the statics and the meditation is actually really hard.
Yes, it's a learned skill.
None of us, when we are trying to meditate at home with the mindfulness meditation stuff, we are not really actually meditating. So it's kind of what we transmit in the water, and it is very hard. So it's excellent that you kind of, how do you say, like redirect the thoughts, no?
Yeah.
Like it's a highway. It's like this one, no, this one, yeah.
Definitely. And meditation is a learned skill. Relaxation is a learned skill. So every night, you don't even have to hold your breath, but before you go to bed, be present about your breathing, be present about your thoughts, and just practice that meditation and relaxation. So that way, when you are doing your statics, you're ready for it. You're trained for it.
I agree.
Totally.
Which is, statics, I think that it is a discipline that I like quite a lot. And it's because of that same reason. First, I believe if that you're a lazy person as I am, it's excellent. And the second thing is that people turned a static discipline into what is today holding your breath for the longest that you ever can. And then whenever they are going to start the statics, they're going for that instead of understanding how to get there, how to prolong the breath hold, what is happening on the body, as you're saying, no? And it's mainly because whenever we do statics, we set it up as the longer we can, the longer we can hold our breath for. And since personally, since we started like burning that idea, mainly in a little bit more of advanced levels than that, since we start cleaning up those ideas of it is not the longest that you can hold, but understanding the body and stuff, it is when you get your best results, no? Yeah. And it's really interesting what you're mentioning about the fact that you need, like, you're performing your statics in an environment that is overall full of excuses not to do a breath hold, no?
Exactly.
Which is very interesting. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I was a little worried the first time performing in front of a full house, and because it's the first time I performed in front of an audience, I wasn't sure how that would, like, adrenaline pumping and everything. But as soon as you start the warm-ups, the body remembers what to do, and it just went into freedive mode.
Though you mentioned before, no, you studied spearfishing and you started taking pictures, so of course your dives would be of longer breath holds than usual, and probably you've started kind of taking the idea of statics because of maybe doing long breath holds underwater due to photography industry spearfishing, when you least think, because even when you're doing statics on what you're doing now or you were doing in Cirque du Soleil, you were still doing an action, which you do with photography and spearfishing, which is pretty interesting to observe.
Yeah, exactly. Both of, like, especially photography, definitely a holistic approach to statics, because you're in depth, and then you have the camera and you're waiting for the composition to happen, and so there's a lot of waiting at depth, which improve the statics quite a bit.
Yeah. Lou, you can come back here. Good, nice. See, I find this very interesting. Last year we did a workshop of statics with the French champion,
Matthew.
I can't remember. Well, no, I don't have it now. But with Matthew, and he teached us a lot of how to approach statics from somewhere else, and I think that you do that. How do you, like, when you're off the shows? Because I'm guessing that with the shows, your training was the show itself, no? Like, you wouldn't have time or space to train more during the shows.
So with Cirque du Soleil, we have a city we'll go to, and we'll spend 8 weeks to 12 weeks there. In between each city, we have usually 3 weeks off for them to tear up the stage and bring it to the next country and set everything back up. So the performers have a little bit of a time to rest, which is well needed, because we're doing eight to 9 shows. So I'm doing 8 to 9 shows a week, which is quite a bit of breath holds, and that's quite hard on the body. So I wasn't doing a lot of anything other than my performance. Most of the day was spent sleeping and trying to recover. And then on those longer breaks that we had, I would do a little bit of training. So I have some dry training I would do called Dante's Inferno, which is walking upstairs holding my breath, and then walking down the stairs holding my breath. Because we're in hotels, not every hotel has pools. So I had to figure out how to train without any water.
Yeah, and still moving. No, yesterday I was just seeing an interview of, like, I think one of the world record holders say that, like, the dry static apnea, like being static, it's not so helpful then to transmit to the water. So, like, keep on moving, cycling in apnea, walking up and down the stairs in apnea, you know, that will bring way more benefits, actually. Matthew?
What I find really interesting of this discipline is that it's so personal at certain point, because it's so related, as you've been talking about, like the psychology out of it. It's one of the biggest parts that I think that what I've seen about it is that there is different approaches to each one. You know, each at the end of the day, I think that everyone is, I don't want to say promoting, but talking about what worked better for them, you know, on this. And two things I wanted, like, I would love to know that, like, I think we can leave it like not to the end, but I would like to know those training methods that you said that you would like to share about.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's super interesting. And as well, like, how was your progress? Like, through, like, I guess that not only for the show itself, but you went discovering like different ways of training yourself and looking to which helped you deal with, at the end of the day, we're looking to deal with this urge to breathe on the best way or delayed it the most. I always tell people that the urge to breathe is like that best friend that you have that is kind of annoying, but you can't get rid of it because it's like that best friend that you know is always going to be there for your safety and everything, but that you need it on small doses, you know? So you don't want to get rid of it, but you don't want to like have it there since the very beginning all the time with you, you know? And for me, the urge to breathe is a little bit of that, of learning how to cope with it, that I think is one of the troubles that if I'm looking at a beginner, even on a dive, not even necessarily on a, just on a breath hold, even if it's a dive, it's a pool, if it's whichever, you know, it's like this fight of, no, I can't do it because of my urge to breathe, you know? And one of the things I personally like to mention when they start freediving on the very beginning is that freediving is not about like, how do I deal with my urge to breathe? If not, is how do I consume oxygen on a slower way to delay this urge to breathe? Because carbon dioxide will build up slower, and then like this will come later on. And that's how I'm going to prolong my dives, not by saying, okay, how do I fight this? If not, how do I work with it, you know?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I would like to know your journey through it, because I think that it would be of great advice to anyone that is looking at this and finds those barriers on their urge to breathe. Is like, what's been your journey through it, and what are your advices for these people, you know?
I think I started off very similar with most people when they start freediving. I was told to do tables right away, and so the tables are sequential increasing of breath holds for O2, and then for CO2 tolerance, learning how to do the same breath hold with less breathing, and so they suck. Like they're all about building up the CO2, and I think when you start with tables right away, especially as a beginner, you start to equate the suck of tables with the suck of the urge to breathe. And I was definitely the same way. Now, oh no, I got my urge to breathe. Now I have to suffer through this for another 3 minutes. And with my time doing breath holds every single day, and especially in some cities like Bogota, which is 9,000 feet, 3,000 meter elevation, or Mexico City, which I think was 2,000 meter elevation, you get contractions really quick. And if you're thinking, oh, this sucks, like it just would be a miserable experience. And so in one of those cities, something switched, and I started paying attention to more what was happening when I had contractions. And I realized that even though because I was on a passive exhale, I would sink to the aquarium, but in a relaxed state, my lungs kind of float. And as I had contractions, I realized that I slowly started going down. And so what this told me is that that diaphragm contraction is cycling the rest of the air that I have, and it's giving me an actual longer amount of air, so I can hold my breath longer. So these diaphragm contractions are actually helping. And so once I realized that, yes, the urge to breathe can be discomfortable, but it's also helping me hold my breath longer, it helped me like not think of it as being a painful experience, but a growing experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more I became more aware of how to relax and those meditation techniques that hopefully we'll be able to share a little later. Once I became aware of those techniques, it became more of a training of mental and not so much of suffering through, which I think is very important for beginners and advanced. It's not about how much pain you can tolerate, but how much you can relax through that discomfort.
Good. Totally. Like, yeah, like you said it all. It's not necessarily to add more to it, because at the end is recognizing that your body is doing something to help you be there. And once you kind of click that on your mind, it's a one-way trip. So yeah, you described it like perfect, I think. Yeah.
And this idea of being able to be relaxed and meditate through discomfort is also like applicable to your day-to-day life. If you're having foot pain, or it maybe you forgot your jacket and it's a little chilly outside, and like we live in such a comfortable life from our day-to-day that being able to relax through discomfort, it's a skill most people don't have. So it's an important skill for statics.
I think that it comes to today's life as well, like for what everyone is living at home right now, it's tools. Like we've been comparing this through most of our chats, our lives, is like all of these skills that we get to freediving. I think it's really interesting how like we can apply them to our day-to-day. And we normally mention that, but I think that you don't realize it so strongly as to what is happening today on the world and how we're having to live our lives, and how actually it can change so much. Like that awareness that you were talking about just before you go to sleep and just before you wake up, it's already like a two worlds, two ways of beginning and ending your days, like how we can apply it. It's really interesting. Yeah. So if there's anything you would like to share, if there's anything that you like to share before we pass to the meditations, I would love to open to anyone that wants to ask Derek any questions in particular. You are welcome to ask them about your urge to breathe, your experiences, your anything that you like. You're welcome to do so. And if not, we can start with your guidance, and from there, we'll read the questions afterwards as they show up.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. So I have it broken down between beginner, intermediate, and advanced.
Cool.
And so for a beginner, I think the most important thing to holding your breath is learning how to breathe. A lot of times, especially when we're sitting at a desk, we crunch our diaphragm down. And so we habitually learn how to just breathe through our upper chest. And that hyper breathing causes, our stimulation. It's a key to our parasympathetic nervous system, which makes us kind of excited. Our body thinks we're breathing fast because there might be danger around, which excites our brain. And so we need to learn how to breathe with a diaphragm. We need to learn how to slow our breaths down and very relaxed diaphragmatic breathing. And just those breaths alone is going to slow down our brain, slow down our thoughts, relax our body. And then as we start to learn how to relax our breathing, we need to learn how to relax our body. Our muscles, if we're ever tight, those isometric contractions use oxygen. So learning how to relax and sink into the environment that we're in is going to increase quite a bit of your breath hold. And then as we start to get comfortable with holding our breath and starting to accept that urge to breathe, what I would like to recommend is that if you're lucky enough to have contractions, not everybody is, but if you're lucky enough to have contractions and to be able to hold to those contractions, to feel that contract and then release with it. And try just to hold 5 contractions, no more. And if you can do the 5, then try to extend those 5. So if your 5 happen every 5 seconds, try to extend the first five so that they're 10 seconds apart. And you'd control that the same way you'd control your blinking. When I have to blink, but if I stare long enough, I can extend that blink until I can't, and then it blinks. So the same thing with your contractions. Stop them, relax through it, try to extend. And then once you're comfortable extending those contractions, you can move on to the intermediate. So with the intermediate drills, it's all about mental techniques. So I have 3 mental techniques. The first one is soundscapes. No, sorry. The first one is body scans. So as you're laying down, you can do this in 2 different methods. My method is moving in a linear fashion. So I start with my toes and I turn off my toes, relax the toes, then relax the foot, then relax the calf, relax the thigh, relax the hips. Then I move to the fingers, relaxing the fingers all the way up to the arm, then relaxing the spine, until eventually everything in my body is turned off except for my consciousness. After that, I have what's called soundscapes. So once I'm completely relaxed, I try to listen to the sounds around me. Maybe it'll be some people talking, maybe it'll be the water crashing, the birds chirping. Whatever the sound, I try to take my consciousness and place it into that sound, almost like I'm watching a 3D theater. I belong over there and not in my body. Those 2 are the easiest to couple and to practice. The next one I have is one that I learned while performing with Cirque, I think in Bogota. And that's called Into the Deep. So instead of taking my consciousness out, if you close your eyes, you'll see a color. Mine is like a dark brown, very dark red color. And what I try to do is let that color move further away so that I'm going deeper into my mind. It's almost like I'm falling into a deep cavern. And that color is getting further and further and further away. And what I'm doing is I'm diving into my consciousness. So that way my body isn't around. And I discovered this, I think it was in Bogota, where I was having contractions in like 15 seconds because of the altitude. And when I dove deep, I found that I was aware that my body was having contractions, but it wasn't me. Like I can see through the eyes, I can see the shell that I was in, but my consciousness was so far in that it didn't affect me. I didn't feel the pain. I was aware of it. And so this one was very difficult for me to be able to do regularly, which is where this practice comes in. But I think once you can dive into the deep, it's going to help quite a bit with the relaxation and meditation. And then with the advanced, now that you have the physical component or the mental components of relaxation, it's time to go into the physical of how to train the actual urge to breathe. And so in this case, I recommend turtle crawls, so doing a static in the pool. I do it on an FRC. You can do it a little overweighted. Always do it with at least one buddy watching you. Crawling slowly on the pool, just one tile at a time. And then when you feel that urge to breathe, letting that contraction happen and relaxing through it as you continue to pull through. So in like a 25-meter pool, it should take you about 2 minutes, 2:30, 3 minutes to get across. And again, this is an advanced training technique, so you should be comfortable with longer statics already. And then you could do the same thing on FIMs as well. And FRC breath holds, which I mentioned earlier, is a great way. And time, I mean, it's time efficient as well to do the FRC statics.
I think like everything that you just mentioned is super interesting, and actually the process of how to train, like that there is a process, you know, it's not one day from the other one. It's like, okay, now you can go into the deep. No, it's like there is a process, and controlling our mind is the most difficult part, and actually understanding what relaxing my body means. And it takes practice. So I really like the whole steps and ways that takes you from one to the other one.
Yeah, exactly. Looks like we have a question from Courtney.
As you closed, it was perfect, is practice, doing it, it's at the end of the day is that which will help us improve and be more comfortable. Kande, you wanted to say something?
No, that I was like, as he spoke through the exercises, I was visualizing them and like how to be able to perform them then, and I like, you can see why. So we suggest everyone to actually apply them on each level that each one is, and start from there, because as he was saying, no, the awareness and the relaxation at the beginning, the space out on the mind on the second one, and the slow movements and breath holding the third one. I think everyone can do it in their own pace, and I think it would be very useful. Which takes me, see, we have Courtney saying that she understands the comfort, but when the urge to breathe happens in the water, it can be a little bit scary, etc. I think that comes a little bit hand by hand of the relaxation itself. Like, we need to make sure that we are actually very relaxed before that. Otherwise, we may be even triggering the urge to breathe earlier than what we think, because of tension or because of just contracting the diaphragm. If it's the case that it's that we're doing depth, many people tend to contract the diaphragm in the urge to breathe, and then they mistake that with the urge to breathe itself, etc. So I believe that what the exercises that Derek is mentioning will be very beneficial, and it's something that you can even try at home. Like, as he was speaking, I was observing it. I was like, oh, I can see how this can work. So yeah,
adding to
feel free to answer Courtney in that sense. Yeah, go. Like, what would you suggest in those terms? I do believe though that she's talking about the water as well, farther than the static, as far as I so yeah.
Right. So for Courtney and for a lot of people, it's really about progression. Before I was an instructor certified, I was teaching like my brothers how to free dive and friends, and I was only thinking about the depth, like getting on the line, diving down, or hitting the ocean or whatever. And I noticed the same thing with my brother. He would feel that urge to breathe, and he would immediately shoot up to the surface. And so there's a lot of fear from that urge to breathe. But if you're training your statics, you don't have to train your statics in the water. You can lay on your bed, practice that relaxation, and then just practice prolonging that urge to breathe. When you become comfortable with that urge to breathe on your bed, it's going to help so much with that comfortability in the water. And then if you're diving on a line, it only takes 10 seconds to get up from 10 meters. So usually students are doing a minute 30 to 3 minute breath holds. And so 10 seconds is nothing from a 30-second dive. So really telling yourself, the surface is right there. I don't have anything to be scared of. I can hold my breath a lot longer. And now's the time just to relax and to enjoy the moment, because the surface is right there.
And even in statics, as we were speaking mainly in statics, we're doing it we're doing it in the swimming pool. So that fear of I'm not gonna make it on the way up, it's different because you're just there, so you're actually allowed to relax much more. So this is like, it's a completely new discipline in that sense, for what many people may know, no? And it's something that you train in statics as well, the observation. So actually later you can pass it to the depths, because as well, that of mixing the fear and the urge to breathe is very, very common. And this is part of what we brought on the conversation of last time, no? Why fears and where they come and the emotion behind it and this and that. But even on a static, people can be triggering the urge to breathe earlier. But it will probably not be the urge to breathe itself, but it would be the fear of the urge to breathe that you just mentioned. So you can even, like, your brain can even trigger contractions by itself, and like you need to recognize when it's actually a contraction, or when you set it up, that contractions, to say like, oh, I'm done, I had contractions. So it's like it really has to be a big awareness of the whole body by the time we're doing statics, of times over certain average times that we can easily do, no? To pass
What
those
I will,
barriers and stuff.
yeah, what I want to add to what they're saying only is, for anyone that is just starting, that is just getting familiar with, there is a lot of information on your head right now. Like, the first course of freediving, it's a lot of information of what your body's doing, what can happen, what can go right, what can go wrong. It's about, so it's normal that your first dives, and especially if it's 2-3 days of diving, your body's trying to get used to the depth, get used to the information that you've been told, trying to relax on the surface, and on top of that, perform the exercise you need to do to achieve like your certification.
It's
So
like Nukre was
bear
saying.
with yourself, bear with yourself and give time in the water and time on your breath hold to go getting used to it, and kind of give your body time to process everything that you've just learned. And one of those things is, yes, as we were saying, practicing at home breath holding, just for the fact of starting to practice that mental relaxation, starting to practice that body tension, or just for the fact of experiencing what your body, everyone has a different sensation through their urge to breathe, in the sense of how we feel it. So getting familiar with those sensations on yourself and realizing that nothing happens, like that it's not the end of the world, that also will help, that the day that you go on the water, you have one less thing to worry about. And then, yeah, it is scary sometimes because you're on a new environment. You're not only always diving on the same place. So, for example, cenotes can be pretty damn creepy and scary sometimes. They're perfect conditions, but it's a big sinkhole. So those things also are factors that will affect on it. So getting familiar with your body and knowing your body and your mind outside the water where you can train it, it's going to help you go ease into your dives on a different way. And for all of this, the beauty is that we don't need water really to do so.
No, and sometimes that water brings an extra level of fear, especially for the beginners. So doing the perfect static, you wouldn't want any gear on your face, so that the water can touch and activate the dive reflex. But for a lot of beginners, having the water come up their nose or touching their nose is scary. So a nose clip or a mask is going to help a little bit with that physical sensation.
It's a journey, isn't it? Like freediving, guys, it is a journey of growth and learning and getting used to. It's not something that because you do the course, you're already a freediver. It's an experience, it's a routine, it's a progression, it's a lot of things that the body will start reading in their daily basis at the end of the day. So just give yourself time in that sense. I think we have more questions actually, if you want to read them.
Let's see.
From Kayla. So here, this one is for you, Derek, and the molten up courses that you do back home that I'm not sure if you offer.
Yeah, so we offer both SSI and Molchanobs because I personally feel they're two different types of schools. So the Molchanobs is very much about progressing in a competitive level. They offer base training every week, so that they teach you how to train, pool trainings, but it's very freediving as a sport oriented. While as SSI is built from a scuba company, so they're more on the lines of enjoyment of the ocean, as opposed to training for competition. So that's why the extra courses like the turtle ecology, the shark ecology are offered through SSI and not offered through the Molchanov system. So it depends on your goals.
One thing that to add to what you guys do is good to know that you do offer like training sessions, like, and that you do offer as well equalization workshops and things like that. That is something that you are pretty specialized on or have knowledge, a lot of knowledge on.
Appreciate that. Yeah, so we do. We're offering pool training. We're in the process of finding a new pool right now. But we do offer line diving every Sundays for certified freedivers. Are always welcome to join us on the line dives, and we'll go out. We also do the equalization courses as well.
Nice. Equalization, guys, very important.
Exactly, for all levels.
For all levels. Same, and it, yeah, see, indeed. All of what requires relaxation of the core is going to be useful in every discipline, in every exercise that you have to do in freediving. Michael, ¿lo ves?
Yeah, Michael is asking. It's pretty big.
Hola, Michael. So I'm gonna get out.
Do you see it?
Yeah, I can see it. Hi, Amancay Friends. Derek, fellow Army Canadian guy here. Hoorah. From the sounds of it, you had a strong start into freediving before taking any formal training. Similarly, I had a lot of hypoxic fitness training in my past before Cande, and Rose taught me what freediving is. Do you think you had a different approach to freediving because of your Army fitness training background? If so, anything, particularly mindsets to avoid? So being an Army veteran, definitely the Army teaches you to shut off your fear and just go for those big numbers. And I think that's very easy for like an alpha male to get into, is just how deep am I diving? How long am I holding my breath? And a lot of times, instead of focusing on what's important. So what's important for freediving is the mental relaxation, the calmness, the emptiness that freediving brings, and not the numbers. If you continue to jump and try to think, oh, now I have to hit 30 meters, now I have to hit 40 meters, now I have to hit 5 minutes, that journey becomes blocked by the numbers. You're not focusing on the growth, but you're focusing on like this target. I have to hit this target. That's my objective. And it's a very detrimental. It could cause injuries. So if you're continually to push too hard, you're going to not allow your body to adapt to those depths you're diving. It's not going to allow your nervous system to adapt to the longer breath holds. So it's really important for freediving to take it slower than you really think you need to. And that's really hard for us, the type of alpha males that we might be.
Bravo.
Candy's so proud.
So proud. Like, I was like, just eating my empanada. Like, no. Wow. Yeah. So yeah. Bravo for that answer. That was beautiful.
Here we have Hodger asking, how did you calm down yourself in performance if performance didn't go as you expected?
Practice and training. A lot of it is just I'm very comfortable with the breath hold that I was doing and with the relaxation techniques that I had. So if something didn't go as planned, let's say my start time was off, the wall got stuck before it came up, and I had to take an extra final breath, or maybe it came up too early and I wasn't able to do my last round of my final breaths. You have to be able to trust yourself and that the ability. So this is where practicing in the pool, practicing on the bed, just practicing in general allows you to be more comfortable with your body, and that comfortable knowing that what I can do is what I can do. So it's okay if something didn't go right the first time, that I just accept that it happened and you move on. More or less that simple. I can't change the past. I can only accept the future.
Derek,
I think that applies to every. Sorry, I think that answer applies to every dive we do. And actually, Rose about that the other day. It was like, not every dive is going to be perfect. Not every time that you want to do a dive is going to be what you expected of the dive. but like that same answer that Derek just gave, I think that applies to your normal dives,
Yeah. Nothing goes as planned. Never.
Which takes me to ask you, I know it's like opening a whole topic again, but now it got really interesting. Like in terms of safety, back in a performance of that size and everything, like how would you took it from how did you calm yourself if the performance didn't go as you expected? What about the safety side of the performance? Like how would you guys have it set, let's say, but don't tell me the secrets, of course, of Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah. So Cirque du Soleil takes safety very, very seriously. They actually have a department that's all about safety, and they'll travel to show and make sure that they're following the safest way. Sometimes they'll see something and make it even safer. So for the aquarium was the first time it's been in a show. So I kind of had to educate them on freediving. We had 2 dive masters in the techs. So luckily there was some experience with diving. And so they kind of understood some of the risk. We had, above the aquarium, we had actually a little tiny bench hidden from view from everybody where a lifeguard was watching me the whole time.
Okay.
And so in every city, I had to train the lifeguard. So this is freediving. I'm not as much as risk in the water as I am right when I surface. So just because you see me surface doesn't mean that I'm safe. So I had to train them in proper surface protocol. And then I also had a partner. So my act was me strumming the guitar while a synchronized swimmer, she flowed and danced around me. And so we also trained rescues with Yukako. So she knew what to look for. If all of a sudden I went limp and fell down, she would know how to rescue me and protect the airways and bring me to the surface. So we train this, and usually every city we at least trained with the lifeguard once, sometimes more than once.
Nice.
And then along with in the aquarium, we also were videoing the aquarium from different angles. So there's always a stage manager who was watching me as well. So I at least had 2 people watching me for every show.
Yeah.
That's good. Great. Derek, like we're reaching 1 hour, and as we said, like we're gonna try to keep it to 1 hour. There is one question of Rose that I think that it can open a whole new topic that we should bring maybe next month into it, that says any magic nutrition tips.
Yeah.
And I think that if you two start talking about this subject, this can go for a long interesting chat for everyone. Yeah. So I would like to get more of closure for this topic today.
Okay.
And anything that you want to everyone out of today as a closure, it's all you as a message that you can leave them.
Okay.
It's all yours.
Yeah. Quick answer to Rose is I found with the show, I did have to fast 4 to 6 hours, and that was really key, was fasting.
Really?
The 4 to 6 hours. So 4 to 8 hours, 6 gave me the most optimal performance. And for my backup, 4 hours gave him the optimal performance. Depending
4 to 6.
4 to 6 hours. So
4
like
to 6.
Saturdays, Sundays, I didn't eat at all because we had.
I understood 46.
Yeah, 4 to 6 hours. So preferably. Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you so much. So thank you so much.
Just clarify everyone, is dietary, like there is a dietary plan behind all of that, just to not have, please don't show up to a course with 6 hours of fasting and trying to do a course for the first time, please, just in case, and not having eaten the day before or something like that.
Don't do that.
In a first level, you can even have coffee. It's fine.
So thank you guys. I really appreciate this opportunity to share my experiences, and for everyone listening, I appreciate you for tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Like it was a great, super interesting chat and really, really amazing approach. And excited to see you in the water at some point, somewhere again, and hopefully in Hawaii with dolphins. And for everyone that tuned in today, once again, like you are legends. Thank you very much for being here once more. We have next Monday, Miguel Lozano joining us. So I would highly recommend everyone to come and see him talk about his journey from a recreational freediver passing into all the world of a professional freediver. Yeah. Thank you.
Derek, thank you very much. I'm very happy to hear this backside of the whole story and see where you're performing statics from. It's really nice. And so thank you for adding up some more interesting topics to Amancay. And everyone, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Bye. 1 hour, vamos. We did
Aloha.
it. Mwah. Ciao.
Ciao.